So let's go ahead and let's get familiar with Owl Carousel. So over here we go to a Google, and again I'm just going to say Owl Carousel, right? And you can see that this is going to be the web page that we're going to be opening, home of Owl Carousel, right? And here we have home, demos, docs, and download, right? So right away I'm just going to click it download, so it's downloading. And over here we can see the demos, what we're going to be looking at, right? So over here we're going to have a basic one, right? So this is going to be our basic carousel. And if we go back over here, we can see let's say a responsive, center, and right to left, and all kinds of different ones. And here would be a documentation, right? So if we just scroll it down, you can see they're telling us where the files are located, right? This is going to be the 2 CSS files, and this is going to be 2 JavaScript files. And over here, if we click to next to installation, right, they're right away telling us where, what are the CSS files, right, the links over here. But what I want to do over here in the brackets, because we have a massive file already, what I want to do is I want to use a brackets extension and open up a new, over here, I'm sorry, I'm in Chrome, right? I would want a new Bootstrap template, right? And I'm going to say that this is going to be a owl HTML, right over here, and I'm going to say save as, and I'm going to say owl HTML, right? And now what I would want to do is delete again this basic template, right? There's containers and everything just to have it empty. And over here, if we go back, I would want to copy this, right? And over here in the head, we're just going to place this CSS, right? Paste it over here. This is going to be our owl. And after that, we're going to go, where's our JS, right? And we don't need to add Jquery, obviously, because we already have it with the template. So over here, you can see that underneath these scripts, we're just going to add a owl, right? We're going to paste it over here. And the next thing what we want to do is obviously right away, they're telling us, right, what kind of a HTML we would want, right? So over here, we have this HTML setup, right? The basic setup. So I'm just going to copy and paste it over here. And we're just going to check it out what we have. You can see that I have a your content, right? So this is going to be our content for now before we have actually linked our files. And if we go further, right? So this is going to be our script that we need to place, right? So since we have a empty file, right, we can just place it within the script tags, right? Now, obviously, in a normal case, we would be placing, and that's what we're going to be doing for our Bootstrap theme, right? We're going to be actually placing it within a file, right? Within a JavaScript file, right? But just because it's so small, we can just do it like this, right? So here, I just copy and paste, right? And now it is within the script tags, right? And let me just make it a little bit more room so it looks more of a Jquery line of code, right? So it's not confusing. And after that, once we have everything, we obviously would need to drag those 2 files, right? So here, if we know that this is going to be our carousel, blah 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 zip, so it's going to go to downloads and get it actually to our folder over here, right? And the case over here, what I would just want to show you is you can see that it's targeting over here this class, right? So this is how it's targeting. We're creating a div that is basically matches the classes, and that's how we initialize a owl carousel, right? So I'm just going to go back over here. We're going to go to my downloads over here like this, and you can see that I already downloaded one, right? So if we just go back over here to the zip, right, we're going to open up another one, right? And over here, this is going to be the second one. And if we go back over here, you can see distribution, right? And if we open up our Bootstrap, right, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to create a new folder, and I'm going to say that this is going to be owl carousel over here like this. And now I'm going to drag these 2, one JavaScript and 2 of the CSS over here like this. And over here, if we go further into assets, right, this is where our CSS is going to be. Now, over here, you can see this min CSS, right, and this owl theme. Well, technically, you don't need this theme one, right, but I'll show you why it's very neat to have it, right. So again, we're just going to drag it over here. This is going to be min, and this is be owl theme min, right. So over here, and once we have everything, we're just going to go and close it out over here, and we're going to go back to a brackets, right. And over here, if we go to this file, and what we're going to do is we're just going to save it for now, right? We're going to save it. And once we refresh the page, you can see that this is our basic carousel, right? Now it's moving only when you're clicking and moving, right? Because we haven't added any extras, right? This is the most basic one, right? But you can see it still works like a carousel, right? So let's go back over here and let's just start looking at the options that we have, right? So over here, if we go back to those demos that they had, let's scroll all the way up. And this is going to be demos, and you can see this is going to be a basic one, right? So we just click it over here, and this is what they're telling us to do, right? So this is going to be the code, right? So let's just start with this one. We're just going to copy this one, and over here we're going to go back, and you can see this is going to be our script, right? So what we would need to do is we would need to get rid of this line over here where the semicolon ends, right? And we're just going to paste it over here, right? And again, we're just gonna have to save it. And over here, if we go back, refresh, right? And now you can see that it's gonna be a little bit better, right? Now we'll have these two icons over here, right? The next over here and the previous ones, right? Over here like this. And this is gonna be our content. Again, it's very basic. We're just starting with basically one text, your content, right? So let me show you how it would work with actually with images, right? And the only thing we would need to do is over here, obviously we're just going to create over here this, we can just delete this divs, right? And we can say that we can create one div, and we're going to say that this is going to be a div that has a image inside of it, and we're going to say source. And since we have images, right, you can place any image you would want, right? Over here I'm going to go to portfolio, and I'm going to go to pick one, right? And the reason why I saved them pick 1, 2, 3 or whatever is because it is a little bit easier to work with them, right? So over here, what I would want to do is I would want to actually copy this, right? So I'm just going to copy this, let's say, I don't know, 4 times or something like this, right? And over here, we're just going to change it around, right? We're going to say that this is not going to be pick 1, this is going to be pick 2. And over here, we're going to say that this is going to be a pick 3, right? And over here, this is going to be a pick 4 over here like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place it over here. And again, we're going to save it. And once we refresh, right, now you can see that we have actual carousel, right, that is working with a owl, right? So this is how the carousel looks like, right? So let me show you with the basic one what we have over here, right? So the first command over here is loop, right, which means that it's pretty much continuously looping through, right? Or here you can see it going, it doesn't stop, right? So the next one is obviously margin, and it's 10 pixels in between, right? So over here, if we go over here, we can see if we have 3 images, obviously this is going to be those 10 pixels, right? Next thing, the navigation is actually these ones, right? These previous and next, right? If we would take this one out, if we would say that this is false, right, then they obviously would disappear. Now, the last one over here is a responsive one. Basically what it says is that for the small screen, this is going to be 1 image. For the bigger screen, this is going to be 3 images. And obviously for the biggest one, this is going to be all 5, right? So in this case, we have 4, so obviously it's not going to be 5. But in general, this is how it would work, right? Now let me show you another thing why we needed this owl theme, right? So if we go over here to this, let's say, well, first of all, let me show you a demo, right? Over here, right? So this is how it should look like, right? But somehow our one doesn't even look close to this one, right? You can see we have 2 letters, right? And they have properly over here previous, next, and all these little neat buttons, right? So what we would need to do, you go over here to Owl Carousel, right? And we're going to go to Owl Theme Default, right? So over here, I'm just going to place something and I'm going to save it. And now you can see that from the min, it turns to a expanded normal one, right? And you can see all the time this continuously, this class be coming up. Owl theme, right? And you can see that we can actually change the colors and all that. And the reason for that is if we want this one, right, to look more like this, actually what we would need to do is go to owl HTML, right, over here, and we go over here and we would need to add the class, right? And we're going to say that the class is going to be owl theme, right? So again, we're just going to save it, we'll refresh, and over here we'll check it out, what we have, what we're missing, right? Something we're missing, and everything's fine. And now you can see that now it looks much more proper, right? So now we have the actual navigation and the buttons, and looks much more neater. And the reason for that, obviously, this is going to be a styling class, right? This is the theme class. Again, you can do it obviously your own one, right? But just for beginning, I would suggest actually adding this theme because it just makes it look nicer, right? So here, if we go back, right, we also have options of basically changing these colors, right? So if we go over here, and if I would say 15025, right? So you can see how actually a color changed over here. And we can just keep scrolling down. This is going to be a background. And let's say the background, we're going to say like white smoke over here like this. So this is going to be a background. Then again, we keep on working, right? This is going to be old theme, old nav. Again, I'm just going to change the colors. And I encourage you, if you have a time and if you are willing, right, to change these things around, just because it kind of gives you an idea what are you doing, right? And which ones you're affecting, right? So again, over here, we can see that this is going to be owl dots, right? So again, I'm going to change them, and I'm going to say that I would want them to be displayed like this, right? So here you can see that once the active one is going to be gray, but the rest of them are going to be like this. And over here, we need to select the active one. And over here, I'm just going to write a black, right? So now the active one is going to be black, and the one we're hovering is going to be black, right? And the last thing, probably over here, this background we would want to change, right? So let's say also it's going to change it to, I don't know, something like navy, right? So as we're hovering, right, so this is going to be navy, and these are going to be dots, right? So this is everything to do with CSS. And now you can see how easy it was to create a basic one, right? The basic owl. And if we go back over here, you can see that there's many other options that we have. We can have a responsive, we can have it in the center, we can have right to left, but I'm going to let you actually discover them all by yourself, right? But over here, what I want to show you, if we go back to docs, right, you can see over here, this is the options, right? And these are the things that we can actually change, right? So over here, you can see the type, the number, right? By default, is going to be 3. The margin is going to be 0. Loop, right? First is going to say this is going to be false, right? So these are all the manual things that we can actually add, right? And over here, the one thing that I would want to show you is actually a smart speed. And that's pretty much a speed with how fast they're switching from one to another one, right? So here now you can see that I missed it again always somewhere, right? So this is going to be a smart speed, right? So if we go over here, right, where we have all our options, right? And you have to understand that by default, right, with the basic one, you already have a couple of these options, right? So you have a choice, right? So you can delete all this, right, and just make it your own one, right? Or you can just add some things that you would want, that you would think is interesting, right? So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this smart speed over here like this, and I'm going to say that this is going to be like 4,000, right? Because you can see that it's taking a number, right? And just remember that we need to add a comma over here, right? And for the last one, we don't, right? So responsive one wouldn't have this one over here because it is the last one. And over here, make sure that if you, for example, have only 2 of them, right? So you don't want to put it on the second one, right? On the last one, right? Only the first one over here would have that, this comma over here. And over here, you can see the default is 250, but we're going to put like 4,000, right? So what I want to do is I want to actually just refresh this one, right? Now you can see how much slower it's going to load, right? So this is pretty neat what we can do. Now that we know a owl carousel, right, we're actually ready to go and add 3 more sections that are going to contain a owl carousel in our Bootstrap theme.